It is basically the most important day in the college football calendar, and nobody's playing. And it's been the most important day, the first Wednesday of February, but it's moved to this early edition now starting in 2017. And we found out last year how vitally important it is to college football programs across the country, including the number one Alabama Crimson Tide. We're bringing Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama to help us break down the Tide's class. Stephen, how you doing today?
Doing well, Mark, and yourself?
I'm doing just fine. So all has basically been quiet today, but quiet is a good thing when you hold the number one ranking. It means you're not losing anyone.
Well, Alabama, as I mentioned to you, Mark, in time past, this class was based on offensive line and defensive line needs, and that proves to be the case today. Alabama locking in Pierce Quick, locks in Tanner Bowles, locks in Darian Dalcourt, locks in Amari Kite. From the offensive line perspective, still waiting on Evan Neal's commitment, which is coming soon, a five-star from IMG Academy. Defensively, Justin Ebiashby kind of gave the Tide a bit of a scare there, but he ends up signing with the Crimson Tide. Antonio Alfano, the five-star from New Jersey, just a freak of nature, immediately put in his letter of intent before things even got really, really cranked up. And then DJ Dale, a four-star defensive lineman, another guy that committed on today. So defensive line and offensive line, Nick Saban knows that college football is won in the trenches, and he wanted to make sure that both the lines were attended to in this early signing period. Kind of a shocker here. Alabama even got a receiver in the signing class, John McChee, the four-star from New Jersey, despite the fact that Alabama returns the likes of Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, and even possibly a tight end in Irv Smith Jr. for next season. So even to get a wideout for this year's class, pretty huge for Alabama. But as you and I both know, Mark, Nick Saban very much so concerned about play in the trenches, and getting the offensive line and defensive line class set away was a big portion for this early signing period.
Jordan Battle is considered the sixth best safety in the nation out of St. Thomas Aquinas, according to 247 Sports. He had been a pretty strong commitment to what was Urban Meyer's program at Ohio State, now Ryan Day. He makes the late flip to Alabama.
Battle was a big get. Battle was a huge get, especially with Daxton Hill. Alabama thought it would get Daxton Hill, another five-star safety. He flips back to Michigan, joining the likes of John Harbaugh in the Wolverine program there. So to get Battle, but not just him, to get Brandon Turnage, a four-star corner from Mississippi at 6'1", 185 pounds. He's got some range on him, some strong footwork, very good ball skills, very instinctive player. So that not only to get Battle, but also bring in Brandon Turnage, get him to the Crimson Tide, addressing some needs there in the secondary. Alabama losing the likes of Deontay Thompson to the National Football League after this season. So despite the fact that you return much of your secondary for 2019, having some young guys like Battle and Brandon Turnage commit, you cannot have enough depth.
We got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line to talk of the Tide, the nation's number one recruiting class. If you've heard that before, please raise your hand. Actually, the only time that we have not heard that in the last 9 years, I believe, would be 2017, in which the class vaulted or plummeted all the way down to number 6.
2018, Mark, 18.
Pardon me? Well, the 2018 class.
Mark.
I'm sorry. I'm stuck in the 2018 season looking back 1 year to 2017. That is correct. The class that was mostly signed in December of 2017 is the 2018 class. Thank you for the correction. That plummeted, depending on your service, to number 6 or number 7, was still an excellent class. Much of that had to do with the quantity of the class, certainly not the quality of the class. We're back up to number 1, where Alabama standards expect to be. And of course, Nick Saban not concerned about the number next to the recruiting class. He's concerned about filling needs and getting the right athletes and the right fits. It's the fan base that, of course, wants to hold up not just that national championship trophy. They want to be number 1 in recruiting each and every year too, Stephen, as you well know better than I do.
talking people off the ledge as I live and breathe here, Mark Rogers. And you and I both understand these are 17 to 18-year-old guys. And we live in a society where you want that instant gratification. It's about, when can I play? When can I start? How much playing time can I get? And there are a lot of coaches out there. They may offer a particular recruit more than what Alabama can offer. Now, I know a lot of Bama fans may be like, how in the world can a different program offer more than Alabama? Well, they're going to give their best effort to do that. So this is how Nick Saban comes into his talking points of Alabama football is not for everybody. You got to come in, want to be a part of this process, and understand that even though you may not start right away, if you show us that you're hungry, you want it, you're big, you're bad, and you can show us that you can play this game, then before it's all said and done, you will find yourself on the field. You will find yourself as a marquee, impactful player or a starter. And more importantly, you will find yourself not just winning championships, with the opportunity to pursue a professional career at the next level. So you're not going to get every young kid to come to your program, but Nick Saban knows you find the guys that identify with what Alabama is, and you move from there.
7 players hail from the state of Alabama out of the 18 signed. The South being the largest and most important and most talent condensed portion of the country. Of course, is a major source of the talent there at Alabama. Nick Saban has also made it up to Maryland to sign 3 players, up to New Jersey to sign 2 players. Those seem to be that Eastern Shore up north, mid-Atlantic, close to the Northeast has turned out to be a pretty good get for Nick Saban in recent years.
It has been because of the guys that Saban's got on his coaching staff. Of the 2 on the coaching staff right now, I know Michael Locksley will head out to the University of Maryland upon the end of this season. But having Coach Locks and having Josh Gaddis both on staff, Gaddis coming over from Penn State under James Franklin, those 2 help you kind of lock up that East Coast where New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, those upper areas are concerned where that goes as far as recruiting. So having those coaches that have those pipeline ties to the East Coast really, really helps in the recruiting tactic. But you brought up the South there for a moment, Mark. The quarterback room for Alabama is very bright now for the first time under Saban in quite some time. And here's a guy in Coach Saban that typically Alabama fans expect him to hit home in recruiting linebackers, defensive backs, defensive linemen, running backs, wide receivers. But for the first time, and I think starting this off with Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, he's finally hitting where the quarterback is concerned. You bring in Paul Tyson and Talia Tagovailoa, both from Alabama. Paul Tyson from Hewitt-Trussville High School, Talia Tagovailoa from Thompson High School in Alabaster, Alabama. And while Talia, the younger brother of Tua, is the heir apparent to the throne in the minds of most people, do not sleep on Paul Tyson. He is bigger than the name. I know he's Paul Bear Bryant's great-grandson, but his play is bigger than the legacy. I've gone back to watch a lot of film on Tyson, and 2 NFL quarterbacks come to mind when I break him down. He's got the arm talent of Phillip Rivers for the Los Angeles Chargers, but he's got the body makeup of a Ben Roethlisberger. And I've gotten the chance to talk with Tyson's defensive coordinator at Hewitt-Trussville, Rudy Griffin. And Coach Griffin has told me Paul is already a big kid right now. It's 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds, but he has yet to fill out his entire body. Once that entire body fills out, Mark, Paul could potentially be 235, 240 pounds. That's Big Ben size. So as good as Talia is, do not sleep on the talent that is Paul Tyson. He's got a rocket of an arm. You put on tape of Phillip Rivers, you put on tape of Paul Tyson, it's just about the exact same arm, and he's got the body makeup of a Big Ben Roethlisberger. This is going to be some fun quarterback competition between he and Talia for years to come.
You mentioned Big Ben. You mentioned Phillip Rivers. They highlighted, along with Eli Manning, the 2004 NFL draft class at quarterback. And here we are 14 years later, Eli Manning, of course, with 2 Super Bowl championships. The same for Ben Roethlisberger, and Phillip Rivers having one of his best outstanding seasons, vying for an NFL MVP with his team in prime position to make a Super Bowl run. And here we are just 14 years later. It's amazing to think about what's happened and transpired, but it shows the shelf life of an NFL quarterback if he stays healthy, gets in the right situation, and obviously has the right leadership capabilities and skill set in terms of talent. And so some of the guys that you mentioned right here, looking to make a similar mark in the draft class of, let's say, about 2021, 2022. Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama joining us to break down the Tide. We always enjoy the conversation with Stephen concerning Alabama football, of course, with the national semifinal coming up on December 29th against the Oklahoma Sooners. Stephen, we would expect Nick Saban would address the media sometime late afternoon, early evening. Is there anything that you would expect to transpire possibly between now and when Nick Saban addresses yourself and the rest of the media?
Wouldn't really expect it, but preparing myself for whatever happens in the Saban press conference at practice today, and as we continue with the early signing period. Not expecting anything too much, but keep my ears and eyes peeled.
So, Stephen, the class stands at 18. What do we expect that number to finish on that first Wednesday of February?
The number will finish between 24 and 25, but concretely, I think the number finishes out at 24.
Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama hustling up recruiting information. He has watched video on all these guys. He notes the backstories, as you can hear, in running down this recruiting class that, again, is #1 in the nation for Alabama as we head toward the finish of today. Actually, this is a 3-day signing period in December, and then, of course, we move forward to February, where for most teams, about 20% of the class will be closed out that first Wednesday of February. Stephen, we always appreciate you stopping by, and of course, we'll love to have you back to prep the Orange Bowl as we get close to that national semifinal game.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.